Eurodesk Polska to program, który kompleksowo informuje o możliwościach rozwoju w Unii Europejskiej. Edukacja, szkolenia, mobilność, fundusze. Tym właśnie się zajmujemy. Siłą Eurodesku są konsultanci. To dzięki ich pracy i zaangażowaniu otrzymasz wsparcie i odpowiedzi na najtrudniejsze pytania. Jak do nich dotrzeć?
Żeby zdobyć informacje, albo w ogóle, żeby zapytać, o co chodzi.
Musisz wejść na stronę internetową
eurodesk.pl
albo odwiedź jeden z naszych punktów w Twoim województwie.
Tam Cię wesprzemy oraz poinformujemy.
Pewnie zastanawiasz się, dlaczego działamy. Odpowiedź jest prosta.
Punkt Eurodesk w Chojnicach został założony przede wszystkim z potrzeby. Różne instytucje i urzędy nie pracują już po godzinie 15-16. My zwykle po tej godzinie działamy. Jesteśmy tutaj po to, żeby zaangażować młodzież. Wolontariat europejski.
Mińsk Mazowiecki jest geograficznie bardzo blisko Warszawy, ale dla młodszej młodzieży, która uczy się w Mińsku, jest to jakby ogromna odległość, że w 3 dni koniem nawet nie dojadą. Dlatego założyliśmy punkt Eurodesk po to, żeby zachęcać młodzież do działania, do angażowania się.
Jeżeli chcemy mieć fajne społeczeństwa, dobrze funkcjonujące, musimy tych obywateli i tych przyszłych dorosłych ludzi wychowywać i wspomagać od najmłodszych lat. Uczyć się, jak współpracować ze sobą w grupie, dowiadywać się o tym, jakie różne mamy możliwości.
Co konkretnie możemy Ci zaproponować? Nasi konsultanci przygotowali coś specjalnie dla Ciebie.
Euroszanse, Eurowolontariat, Europraca, Eurostudia to cykl zajęć, gdzie wszystko Wam wyjaśnimy. Jak realizować projekty młodzieżowe i zdobywać na nie fundusze, jak wjechać na wolontariat, jak rozpocząć studia za granicą, a na zajęciach papiery do kariery uczymy Was pisania dobrego CV.
Nasze działania skupiają się na promocji przedsiębiorczości i nowych technologii w regionie, a także na rozwiązywaniu problemów, szczególnie w obszarze edukacji.
Punkt Eurodesk w Rzeszowie zlokalizowany jest przy wyższej uczelni. To naturalne miejsce dla studentów z Polski, studentów z zagranicy.
Będąc w punkcie Eurodesk dowiedziałam się wszystkich niezbędnych informacji odnośnie staży, który chciałam zrealizować.
Jednak nie myśl, że konsultanci to osoby siedzące tylko za biurkiem. To ludzie, którzy zrobią wszystko, żeby zdobyć potrzebną dla Ciebie informację i zmobilizować Cię do działania.
Mamy tutaj festiwal Intertony, który łączy muzyków z Niemiec, Holandii i z Polski.
Mamy salę prób, z której korzystają zespoły muzyczne.
Dodatkowo spotykają się u nas fotografowie, fani planszówek.
Bardzo często nasza organizacja do najróżniejszych projektów angażuje różne grupy społeczne. Burmistrz miasta i radni grali już z nami w koszykówkę, grali też w piłkę nożną, brali udział w kilku innych wydarzeniach z młodzieżą.
Stworzyliśmy projekt Eurodesk Garden, gdzie młodzież może przychodzić i w takich dość komfortowych, fajnych warunkach otrzymać informacje.
Zorganizowaliśmy i w Krakowie, i u nas w Mińsku piknik przy grillu, przy kiełbasce. Otworzyliśmy informację młodzieżową.
Jak widzisz, Eurodesk to źródło informacji o Twoich możliwościach w Europie. To sieć działająca w 35 europejskich krajach, skupiająca ponad 1000 organizacji młodzieżowych, w tym ponad 60 z Polski.
Eurodesk rüyalarınızın gerçekleşmesine yardımcı olur.
Eurodesk – это люди, которые помогут тебе достигнуть своих целей.
Eurodesk is the knowledge which helps you to pursue your ambition.
Eurodesk to źródło informacji, dzięki którym Twój świat może wywrócić się do góry nogami.
Ciekawska Zosia wszystkim się interesuje. Ekonomiczny Adam ma głowę na karku. Łebska Patrycja wie, co w internecie piszczy. Społeczny Marek myśli o innych, a za liderską Anią inni podążają. Co ich łączy? Podróże po Europie, dzięki którym rozwijają talent, zwiększają charyzmę, zdobywają wiedzę, zarabiają. A gdy nie podróżują, czasu nie marnują. Uczestniczą w konkursach, piszą projekty, działają. Zostań jednym z nich. Zagraj w Euroszansę. Dowiesz się, jak wyjechać za granicę, na staże i praktyki, na studia, na wolontariat. Zobaczysz, jak zorganizować projekt międzynarodowy i lokalny. Poznasz granty, stypendia i konkursy dla młodzieży. Możliwości, które poznasz w czasie gry, istnieją naprawdę, a prowadzący grę konsultant Eurodesk Polska odpowie na wszystkie Twoje pytania. Oto gra, która nieodwracalnie poszerzy Twoje horyzonty i zmieni perspektywę na przyszłość. Poznaj świat pełen możliwości. Poznaj ofertę Unii Europejskiej. Poznaj swoje euroszanse.
Cześć, jestem Kevin. Zawsze byłem człowiekiem zorientowanym na ludzi. People's person. Tak moi znajomi mnie określali. Pochodzę ze Świnoujścia, małego miasta nad Bałtykiem. Nigdy nie wystarczało mi samo chodzenie do szkoły. Po prostu zawsze chciałem coś robić. Byłem członkiem samorządu uczniowskiego, później Młodzieżowej Rady Miasta. Ale i to przestało mi wystarczać i wszedłem na stronę Eurodesku.
Zobaczyłem, co tam jest i zaaplikowałem i zaczęła się przygoda.
Jako uczestnik wymian, konferencji, szkoleń byłem m.in. w Portugalii, Finlandii, Niemczech, Szwecji, Francji, Włoszech i wielu innych krajach. A później trafiłem na Cypr. Pracuję w Hope for Children CRC Policy Center.
Jestem wolontariuszem w schronisku dla uchodźców,
którzy zbiegli przed wojną, organizacjami terrorystycznymi, przed różnymi zagrożeniami, o których ja wcześniej nawet nie miałem pojęcia.
Nazywałem się samego takim Miracle Walker. Prowadziłem dla nich różne zajęcia wsparcia i prawnego, i psychologicznego, ale też wydawałem posiłki i sprzątałem, zaprowadzałem do lekarzy, czy zawoziłem do szpitali i stali się moimi przyjaciółmi. Niestety nie mogę wam pokazać ich twarzy i w ogóle ich wizerunku, ponieważ czyhają na nich różne niebezpieczeństwa i sam ich po prostu chronisz przed tym.
Przez ten rok otworzyłem się bardziej na świat. Nie oceniam ludzi względem ich wieku, koloru skóry czy ich poglądów. Staram się ze wszystkimi rozmawiać i czerpać od nich to, co najlepsze. A wszystko zaczęło się od tego, że zacząłem szukać.
To, co się tu wydarzyło, definitywnie zmieniło moje podejście do życia. No ale to był proces, więc po kolei. Byłam zwykłą nastolatką ze swoimi marzeniami, pragnieniami, no ale też kompleksami i ograniczeniami. Była szkoła, byli znajomi, robiłam różne rzeczy, ale zawsze mi czegoś brakowało. No bo w końcu niby byliśmy obecni, ale tak naprawdę każdy z nas żył w swoim wielkim świecie, ale zamkniętym w małym telefonie. A ja chciałam poznawać ludzi i dzielić się moim światem, który wykracza poza internet czy szkołę. Wtedy właśnie trafiłam na spotkanie z przedstawicielem Eurodesku, gdzie usłyszałam o możliwościach dla ludzi takich jak ja. Wraz z młodzieżą z Włoch, Grecji, Rumunii i Estonii zorganizowałyśmy wymianę młodzieżową. Wymianę, na której rozmawiałyśmy o tematach trudnych i często pomijanych, czyli o tematach tabu, związanych z naszym pochodzeniem, orientacją, rodziną. Są to tematy, które w szkole niestety też są pomijane. Udało mi się pokonać moje kompleksy, ograniczenia. Zauważyłam, że moje poglądy wcale nie są głupie i mogę o nich mówić publicznie. I mimo iż nie mieszkam w dużym mieście, to ja też mogę działać, bo te wszystkie ograniczenia były tak naprawdę tylko w mojej głowie. Więc jeśli waszych też są, no to zajrzyjcie do Eurodesku i działajcie.
To tak, nazywam się Dawid Kicca, lat 21. Pochodzę z wsi Ćmińsk. To jest 15 km od Kielc i aktualnie jestem studentem chemii. W podstawówce pani nauczycielka demonstrowała różne eksperymenty i wydobył się z połówki przy tym taki donośny huk. wtedy już poczułem, że to jest coś, co bardzo mi się podoba. Zaczynałem od małych dymków. Czasami na podwórku zdarzało się coś podpalić, ale tak, żeby nigdy nie przyjechała policja ani straż pożarna. Moim rówieśnikom ciężko było dostrzec obiekt mojej fascynacji, ale moja przygoda z chemią dała mi więcej wiary w siebie i zaproponowałem, żebyśmy mogli gdzieś zrobić pokazy chemiczne dla młodzieży. Udało nam się znaleźć Eurodesk, dzięki któremu pozyskaliśmy informację, że można zdobyć dofinansowanie na lokalne działania młodzieży. Aktualnie realizujemy taki projekt Marzeniobóz. Jeździmy od szkoły do instytucji i organizujemy pokazy chemiczne, bo to, co najbardziej mnie fascynuje w chemii, to jest głębsze spojrzenie na wszystko, co nas otacza. No bo tak naprawdę wszystko jest chemią. Przekazujemy im chemię nie tylko jako znaczki na papierze, tylko coś faktycznego. I kto wie, może ich też przekonam do rozwijania swojej pasji, bo jeżeli ktoś się nie rozwija, to nie można czerpać satysfakcji z osiągania coraz większych szczytów, prawda? Ja również dokonałem takiego rozwoju. Jeżeli miałbym cokolwiek do przekazania młodszemu sobie, to żeby nie być takim upartym indywidualistą, tylko żeby szukać pomocy u innych. Właśnie Eurodesk jest takim zasobem informacji, który pozwolił na rozpoczęcie całej tej reakcji od jednej inicjującej informacji.
Dzień dobry Państwu.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. 20 years ago, well, the people who knew Eurodesk and who knew what it was, you could count them, just using your one palm. Right now, Eurodesk is known to tens of thousands of people, and thousands of people use Eurodesk services on an annual basis. So we have the reasons to celebrate, indeed. Welcome, my name is Wawrzyniec Pater, and it's going to be my pleasure and privilege to host this conference on the 20th anniversary of Eurodesk. 20 years ago, Poland joined the Eurodesk program. I didn't expect to be welcomed that way. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Thanks a lot. That's really encouraging, and that's a good beginning. That's a good beginning for our conference today. I do hope it's going to be fruitful. I hope you will benefit equally as we are going to benefit, because we organizers, we want to benefit as well. You represent various backgrounds. We have the employees of organizations covered by Eurodesk. There are heads of organizations in here. There are youth workers, consultants, many people who are involved in working with young people or who work for the purpose of young people. I hope that the composition of our conference today will make you benefit. Annual or anniversary conferences follow certain agendas, and our conference is going to follow a certain agenda too. So at the very beginning, we are going to talk about ourselves positively. Then we'll ask others to talk about us positively. And further on, when those others cease their presentations, that's going to be time for lunch. No, 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 that's not how it's going to happen. We want to extend the topic of our conference. It's not going to be only about Eurodesk, but also about what to do in the future to be more effective, more effectively reach out young people, and how to extend our operations, activities that you're involved in as representatives of your organizations or institutions. The date of this conference has its purpose. Do you remember what day we had yesterday? What was it? 17th of April, April 17th, Monday. What else? What else can you say? Our director in here, he knows, he follows the calendar of Eurodesk. Yes, that was the European Day of Youth Information. Well, so we picked this date purposely because we want to touch upon the topics connected with youth information, extensively, broadly understood youth information. It's not just Eurodesk, it's much broader. Our agenda for today, we're going to start this conference, this session, which is going to cover more or less 2 hours. After coffee break, workshops run by people who are closely connected with organizations operating within our network, so high quality guaranteed. And now, let us officially open the conference. Director of the Bureau for the Research and Publications.
Działa.
A teraz? Już jest, dobrze. Witam Państwa.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, good morning. It's my great pleasure to be here with you on behalf of the Directorate and the Management Board of the National Agency Erasmus Plus and the European Corps for Solidarity. Let me welcome you. Paweł Poszytek, the head of our organization, should be here, but I was designated to come here. I've been involved in Eurodesk work, first as a freelancer, and now I am in charge of the Research and Publication Bureau, which also covers Eurodesk. I've always been a bit envious on you because over those 20 years, we got a bit older. We all got a bit older, whereas you are still young. You are youth workers, so you are young. 20 years ago and right now as well. 20 years ago, I didn't make a difference between a youth worker and a young worker, and I really appreciate your work a lot. Since you want to talk about yourselves positively, well, let me join. I will not talk for 20 minutes. Youth information is quick and concise. Eurodesk, it's the best bureau, the best online platform, the best online portal, the network built around the Polish bureau, the Polish office, organizes the highest number of events and actions, time to move for that purpose. And it really works well with the youth portal. Thank you very much for offering us these foundations. Thank you very much for this collaboration. Have a fruitful time today. Use this foundation to build on it, to build further on, to extend your activities, searching for the new ways to reach out to people. All the best, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. And as announced, right now, Eurodesk history in a nutshell, but slightly differently. I will This presentation is going to be based on some leitmotif, some thesis. And it's about the fact that youth information is needed, is necessary. And it's worth doing efforts, taking efforts for having more youth information so that access to youth information is easier for young people. Let me explain first, what is information? What is youth information? Well, youth information is the conscious, structured, systemic activities which should provide young people access to information and also to some consultation at times. That's my definition of youth information, and that's the definition that I'm going to follow right now during my presentation. Majority of you, ladies and gentlemen, you know Eurodesk really well, because half of our participants today are the employees, are the workers of Eurodesk, but some of you are not. So let me share with you what we do. Our mission stays on, dwells on, both in Poland for 20 years, in Europe for over 30 years. Eurodesk was established in 1990. That's the mission is information. Information is our priority. Our task is to provide information. It's not information for everybody. It's not information about everything. What type of information is delivered? That's going to be explained in a moment. Our target group, of course, as you might have guessed, are young people. And also youth workers, people working with young people. Youth information for young people and for youth workers. Sometimes people question the need of such conscious activities. Well, we have the internet in place, and you've got everything online, and young people online, as a general perception tells us, young people are really internet literate. Technically, probably yes, but all the research done so far shows that young people face problems with differentiating between truth and fake. They cannot make a difference between credible and incredible sources of information. Of course, I use the internet, and all that research is based on credible sources of information, but young people have problems with that. And that research shows it. Polish research, European research, American research shows that all. So that's the first argument supporting the claim that young people need information, that young people search for credible information. And young people admit it. In those red slides, you're going to see the arguments confirming my initial claim. Shortly speaking, what we do. Information. We provide information. We try to arrive at young people in any manner that's available. Face-to-face, newsletters, brochures, media, online, etc. Plus the collaboration in our network. I promised to cover what we do. So we make young people more active, more mobile. Young people use the opportunities available. And that's also information about funds which provide for both activity and mobility. That's why we have this claim. Activity funds mobility. That's how we try to encourage people to use our offer. How do we work? We offer information directly to people who reach out to us. We answer their questions in any manner possible. Social media, telephone, email, you name it. Different questions from various areas. We try to answer those questions to the best of our abilities. And since we've done it for 20 years, we are real experts. We have publications which cover some more extensive topics and subjects. We collect them in just one place. So in one place, a young person can find answers to their questions. And I have 20 minutes, but half of that time is going to be consumed by my technical issues. Websites, of course, websites. Let me start from the European website, the European Youth Portal. We also manage that. The domestic Eurodesk bureaus are involved in creating this youth portal, European Youth Portal. We submit information, we submit content. And our flagship activities, lessons given, games, that's how we appeal people, that's how we reach out to people directly. Meeting people at schools, at some youth organizations, we frequently meet young people who know nothing about the EU, Europe, or Poland offering to them, Poland in the EU, that is. And frequently they are really, really surprised to hear that they can make use of those really good offers and opportunities. So we design lessons, we plan lessons, we try those lessons to be as attractive as possible to attract people. Studies abroad, trainings abroad, voluntary service. That's not always of greatest interest to people, but we try to gain their attention. We meet young people, we join various types of events all around Poland, as you can see, picnics, fairs, seminars, all types of events involved, open air or roofed. And we also share information. We are very generous in that respect. We are an entity which shares public information. There is no reason to compete against anybody else, to join any rivalry. So whatever we produce, whatever we develop together with you, all that is shared. That's, for the time being, that's a virtual example of an application, of an app, which is soon going to be available. It's virtual, literally speaking, and also metaphorically. It does not exist yet, but it's going to be with us soon. That's the first design. So the app covering all the core sources of information connected with the broadly understood youth activity. Right, so that's what we do. At the very beginning of our activities, because I've been with Eurodesk right from the very beginning, so at the very beginning, we had this dilemma, what to do. A medium-sized country, smaller countries do not have enough funds to go beyond a national bureau. Bigger countries have those funds. We are a medium-sized country, so we were thinking, should we do everything by ourselves, or maybe should we search for some other solution? We opted for this other option. So we decided to create a network. We invited organizations and institutions that work with young people, that offer information or want to offer information, and we suggested some collaboration. And from 2004 was the first training for our organizations. So since 2004, we continue with the network. And we do not regret this decision because it brings a lot of benefit. And you cannot compare the network with doing everything by yourself. The network is always better. There were some errors on the way, but our major argument for extending the network was to extend our activity. So we have local points, regional points, local points. It's not always perfect. Maybe we also a bit overestimated our potential. So for the time being, that's what it is like. So the first argument, to extend the reach and the coverage. The second argument, why do we need youth information? Because it counteracts information exclusion, which exists. We know it from our experience, information exclusion, because of geography reasons. To put it simple, people who live far away from large cities, people living in smaller places, have a more difficult access to information compared with their peers from big cities. Everybody should have access to information, that's our assumption, but it's not the truth. Direct contact.
Of course, the youth likes the internet. They like to get their information from social media and other online sources. That's true. But research conducted by Brussels Link, among others, show that young people declare that they do need direct contact with consultants and advisors. And the last aspect of our activity, of the activity of the network, it is indirectly beneficial for young people, but also for the people working for the youth. It is the opportunity to share experiences, to raise our knowledge, competencies, activities, and capabilities when it comes to working for the information of the youth. This is a horizontal network, but this is not the entire network. Aside from having the office in our country, there are local bureaus and offices. There is also Eurodesk Brussels Link that I have already mentioned, and they are doing enormous work for the purpose of regional offices, for national offices, but also directly working for them, supporting them, and also for the multipliers. They have access to the effects of work of the European and the national office. I should mention one thing. Organizations that are partners of our network do not receive any funds from us. We base this network on cooperation. Some people say it's based on volunteer service. I am not in favor of this opinion, but that's a different thing. Well, most of the people who are here in this room today, you know what I'm talking about. But I should say once again that everyone who wants to use the support of the national office would like to sit back and do nothing. Is it right? No, they cannot just sit back and do nothing. No. The role of the informers of the offices and bureaus is really enormous. It's huge. reaching out to young people, the people who work with the young people, the people who inform the young people and offer advising services for them is so valuable. And I will present you in a moment what this role entails. People who work in the Centers for the Information of Young People, they inform them, they provide consultancy, they communicate. This is really an art, to be able to communicate with young people. They also have to be good researchers. They have to know good sources of information, and they have to know how to tell apart the reliable sources from the unreliable sources. Of course, it's great if people who are in the network have the competencies of the persons who not only takes but also gives. Furthermore, it often happens that they work as motivators, they motivate young people to act, they initiate certain activities. And the most important competency, the most important work of a person working with information, it requires constant learning. Constant learning, you have to be on the ball with what is going on, what is happening, because the developments right now change very dynamically. So the work of a person providing information to young people is not easy. It requires a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience and skills. And that is another argument for the fact that we really need the Centers for Information of the Youth, because only very well trained people who know their thing can work there. And the last thing, well, maybe one of the last things, can we actually measure the value of what we are doing, the value of the information we are providing? We'll talk about it a little bit later as well, but my answer to this question is no. We cannot measure it for 100%. We cannot measure the entirety of the effects of our work, and I will explain you how and why in a moment. Of course, we can measure some indirect effects. So, for example, the number of unique visits to the website of around 5 million. That was the number of visits on our website from the moment that when we started measuring it. And the number of workshops with games, 6,500, 120,000 participants of Euro lessons. So we started providing these lessons in 2006, and since then 120,000 students participated. We can count the number of events. We have a few hundreds of events a year, 7,500 since we started measuring, and 350,000 of participants in events, starting from 2012 until 2022. So these are the things that we can measure. What happened right now? All right. Now, very rarely we know how the young person who comes to us uses the information we provided to him or her, how it affected that person, because, well, very rarely young people are aware that it would be great to give feedback to the organizations that work for them. They rarely are aware that it would be great if they told us that, well, the information that you provided to me was really helpful, thank you, etc. But a few times it did happen. So once there was a girl who asked us about studies abroad, and on this occasion we also talked with her about the volunteering opportunities, and she wrote to us her feedback. It's not easy to get this feedback, but it did happen, and there are such people here in this room. I will start with Małgosia. Małgosia, tell us where are you from? I'm from Oborniki commune, next to Poznań, and I am a council. I'm a member of the council of the city, and we have also our organizations for the youth there, and I'm also in the students' government in the university. And so you are a beneficiary of the network right now. How are you the beneficiary? Well, I have benefited from the information provided to me in this network because I got information about the possibilities to go abroad. And how did you get this information? Well, did you call them? Well, the representatives of the local center are very visible in our community. I'm not speaking only about the broader location and the broader community, which is the Technical University in Poznań, but Dąbrowa Leśna, which has 700 citizens. Also, we know there that there is Eurodesk. So actually, they're very active in our small community, in our small cities as well as in villages. Our youth firefighting group also spread information about the Eurodesk, and thanks to that, the young people know that they can use this center, and it is very motivating on the young people, for the young people. And how have you benefited from your travel, from your travel? Well, actually, first of all, I got to know how valuable information there is in the central and which techniques we can use in order to encourage young people to act. Okay, so I think it is worth mentioning who was responsible for this success. Maciej Tomkowiak, is he here with us? No, he's not here, but anyway, let's applaud. Maciej Tomkowiak did a great job. And thank you to you too, Małgosia, for sharing your experience. Artur? Hi, I'm Artur. I came here from Piekary Śląskie. Well, sorry, we came here from Piekary Śląskie. I am the chairperson of the youth council of our town. I engage in youth organizations in our town, and you have retrieved information from Eurodesk. Yes, in Piekary we have Eurodesk, and I got to know that there is the Discovery EU there. So did you have to ask them about that or what? Well, I went there and I asked them about the initiatives, about Discovery EU, and I also got information that I can visit the eurodesk.pl website. So I did that, and I saw that there is all the information I need. So I applied to Discovery EU, and I was lucky enough to be accepted for this program. And thanks to that, I could travel around Europe. So you did use the opportunity of traveling under the program of Discovery EU. Now you are 19, you were 18 back then because it's for the 18-year-olds, right? So did you benefit from it? Yes, of course. Thanks to that, I'm now well organized when it comes to managing my time, because I had to check all the trains, I had to plan the journey, so right now I'm really better organized. Also, I broadened my cultural horizons. I visited Naples, and it was a great adventure. So I went to Naples, and I'm still alive. Oh, that's great. Thank you very much. And congratulations to Piekary Śląskie Eurodesk Center. All right. So we can see that the information provided to youth contributes to their development. Now we are moving back to the moving on to the reflections on our future. What can we do better? If we assume that sky's the limit, how can we reach out to all of the people? In Poland, we have 7.67 million young people. How can we reach each and every one of them? Because unfortunately, we do not have the capabilities of reaching out to all of them right now. But there are certain activities that we could take in order to achieve this goal. Of course, we cannot escape the financial issues, because as I mentioned, we do not receive any funding. It is only our budget only consists of the some European funds. European Commission, however, has not spent even €1 on our programs. And there are certain deficits when it comes to infrastructure. In a lot of countries where there are national portals, well, they can benefit from their funds. Unfortunately, in Poland, there is not such a national structure, but we can learn from the others who are more lucky. So, in real life, a good infrastructure is based on the national centers of consultancy for young people and regional centers. We will talk about it later as well. And the last thing, which is great, is that very important, is that we are appreciating and supporting the entities responsible for the youth policy, for working for young people. I think that my time is already over, and for some time right now. So I'm afraid that due to that fact, the conference will take a little bit longer. So now let's move on. So we heard the voice of the young. So now I'd like to ask some other also young people, but these are already people who deal with everyday work with such persons as Małgosia or Artur. Thank you very much for this introduction and advertisement of my person. Thank you for inviting me here. You're welcome. My name is Karolina Kurek-Hauser and I represent Częstochowa, the regional Eurodesk point in Częstochowa. I'm here with my colleague today. We have co-created this organization since 2019. So my adventure with Eurodesk started thanks to my colleague. It was very spontaneous. Well, I have met my colleague before, but in 2019 there was a breakthrough. In autumn 2018, Joanna approached me and said, Karolina, I have a great idea. We are applying to Eurodesk network. Let's do it. We'll be the only center in Częstochowa. Let's try to do it. And I said, well, why? That's a great idea, but I know nothing at all about European project. I have never participated in any project during my education. I knew something about Eurodesk, but I think that it was something that I just heard somewhere, but I didn't remember anything about it. And actually, I didn't know anyone who benefited from Eurodesk in Częstochowa because I was very much busy with studying and going to parties. And actually, I do regret that I didn't know more about that, and now I would like to make up for it. And at the moment that we applied to Eurodesk, I wanted to make up for the lost time. So that is why I'm so happy, all the more so, that we are part of Eurodesk right now. And we got accepted. I'm happy about it. So what Eurodesk gave to me and is giving to me and to my organization. First of all, in 2019, I participated in the training for consultants, and I must admit that the whole atmosphere and the atmosphere was great, and the national center of Eurodesk really appealed to me. First of all, there are people that work there have so much positive energy, and they are so knowledgeable. They know so a lot. They also know how to share this knowledge, and they do not discriminate against anyone due to the lack of knowledge. Even older people as myself, who actually already had their chance to use the project in the past, now I cannot. I am also not discriminated against. Of course, I can still benefit from this program as the youth worker. I still feel young at heart. So knowledge is very important. The tools are very important, and I received the tools thanks to which we can interactively pass on information to the young people. As you know, there are licenses, certain licenses, and actually we do receive the tools in the form of licenses, of Euro games and Euro lessons. So we do not get any funding, but we do use the tools. We have a whole array of things that we can use in working with the young people. Actually, we work with the youth after hours, and the young people are there. They need our support, and we know that after 4 p.m. young people also are eager to learn because they are still at schools after their lessons and out in other educational centers. What else? Well, I would love to thank you, and I would like to mention that thanks to Eurodesk, we started being recognized in Częstochowa, in our region, in Poland, and also in the whole Europe. I have one example of the situation when Eurodesk helped us and rescued us, actually.
Well, it opened us the doors to many events or to many organizations. Sometimes stories are funny, but Eurodesk can save your life sometimes, and it's good to remember about it. And we are recognized. We have a lot of new contacts. We have a lot of new relations. We've done many things that we could have never done without Eurodesk, or we wouldn't have done them without Eurodesk. We collaborated with Dorota from Piekary Śląskie and Dorota from Rybnik, and we arranged for certain events, and our events were photographs. You could see the photographs in Wawrzyniec presentation. We planted trees, we collaborated with foundations, with institutions. We won an ambassador who is a freestyler and has great contact and great relations with young people. He's even more direct with young people than we are. And so let me stress, Eurodesk offers a lot, but it also takes something from you. Well, it takes your time, it consumes your time, but this time, well, I could spend that time after work, tired, lying on a couch or watching TV without any productive activities. But Eurodesk teaches you a lot. It teaches a good organization of your time. If we work after hours, that's very important. It offers a lot of satisfaction. So thank you very much for this invitation. I don't know how much time I have. Should I finish? Should I close already? Or thank you very much. Thanks a lot. It's been a real pleasure. I think that the message got through. This message has been very, very effective. You've been appealing indeed. But that's, thanks to this network, we can share good energy indeed, which happens during our trainings, events, meetings. Eurodesk, as I have always mentioned, I mean, I'm not an objective, I'm subjective in my opinions, of course, but to offer you some more objective information and some objective opinions, I've decided to invite yet another speaker, Magdalena Tędziagolska, who is in charge of a really deep evaluation of Eurodesk, comprehensive, extensive evaluation of Eurodesk, which took place last year. Magda will share the results with us. I haven't mentioned, Magda is from Badania and Działania, research and activities, to translate the name of the company into English. Yeah, I will present the results of the evaluation, but thank you for having me as a person who evaluated Eurodesk. In my old times, the times of my youth, I was a voluntary worker in various European projects, and it was very interesting for me to come back to this world, to look at it through the evaluator glasses. As Wawrzyniec mentioned, it's an objective view because it's based on data. It's data-based view, and we specifically focused on the potential of the network in order to enhance the network and develop it. So the utility of the network for consultants and other people involved. But we also invited young people to share their opinions, to see their needs, to see what challenges they faced in arriving at information. A few words on the results. As already mentioned today, this evaluation confirms that Eurodesk is the source of comprehensive and credible information on how to develop under European programs. As one member has mentioned, we activate the young, we make them understand how much they can do. Yep, that's the tool which helps young people be empowered, to steer their life. But also young people who joined our research mentioned such issues. The usefulness, the utility of the offer of the national office for the consultants in Poland. Well, everybody covered by our survey, all consultants perceived the fact that they believe to the network as a benefit, the benefit for them, benefit for their organizations, and the majority of them claim that the offer of Eurodesk, this differentiated offer of Eurodesk, really faces the needs they have, and they can actively use various options like games already mentioned in here, and other tools offered by Eurodesk. The benefits of the membership, why those who joined the network consider that it's been worthwhile. Well, important issues. Development of their organization, because that's extension of their potential, finding relations, finding tools, all that strengthens the organization, not only as regards providing information, but generally youth work is stronger. Guarantee of high quality of service for external beneficiaries. The organizations mentioned frequently, it's an element of their PR. We are a professional organization. We are a member of a big European structure, which is a door opener for many partnerships, local or international. That helps in entering schools. It helps when we talk with headmasters and headmistresses of schools to win people. That's also important when we share European information. We always get new relations which help further on in our activities. So it's a benefit for an organization, but also it's a personal benefit individually. The great majority of consultants state that it's definitely a benefit, or it's rather a benefit. People learn how to operate, how to organize their time, etc., etc. All that helps consultants in their self-development. I've already mentioned this high evaluation as regards the tools, games, and the offer of Eurodesk, but yet another important aspect is the training activity. So consultants stressed how important training were. They shared that information with us during interviews. You can see the percentages of people who positively assess various types of trainings, developmental meetings for the members. So you can see that these percentages are high. So people get new knowledge, new expertise, but people also get new relations, which are then very handy in their daily lives, in the execution of new projects alike. But evaluation is not just source of information, what works fine and what our strengths are. Evaluation is also for the purpose of, understanding and then developing activities. So challenges ahead of Eurodesk for the next 20 years or shorter span of time. It's been heard in our study, in our research, is that Eurodesk reaches out to young people, but does not arrive at all young people. There are some young people who are informationally excluded, who have some smaller social or cultural capital, and who are not members of any school volunteering club, or they do not belong to Scouts team, and it's difficult to arrive at those people. You need to search for different channels, you need to search for a different language of benefits to get them interested in European information. So that's one of the challenges, an important challenge, to reach out to each and everyone. Yet another important challenge, irrespective of where the young people come, you need to develop the offer which is useful for young people as regards the content, but also as regards the language and the challenges and the channels that we use to appeal young people. So you need to cover all those aspects. You need to use the proper language, pick the proper channel. Those aspects are of importance as well. And they, of course, differ depending on the profile of a young person. So you need to pick differently to someone who is already active, but you need to search for something new, for some other aspect, to appeal to a person who has never been involved in any activities. And the third challenge, or the third aspect, how to strengthen the network. Because there are benefits produced by Eurodesk network, but it's also work, it's a challenge, it's work after time, after hours, it's not against any fee. So it's a big task to keep up the motivation of consultants involved, to offer them the feeling that what they do is important, an important task covering a lot of capabilities. We need to show them how they can develop and extend their skill. The promotion of the youth worker profession, increase of their prestige. That's the task for the network for the years to come as well. So that's all from me. Thank you very much. Let me also say that evaluation, understand, streamline, make more effective. Tomorrow, during our workshops with consultants, I will share the results of this evaluation to a greater detail, and we will also try to develop solutions for the future. So that's for tomorrow, a greater detail. Eurodesk is not in the political abyss, in the political vacuum. Eurodesk exists. That's the result of the certain political decisions taken by the EU, also by Poland. So I think it's worth having this perspective, this European perspective, the perspective of people who work at Eurodesk at the top level, at the European level. So please welcome Audrey. Welcome, Audrey. Audrey Firth, the Eurodesk director, Eurodesk Brussels Link, that is. Audrey, the floor is yours.
What? Ah, picture.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm very happy also to be here. And I think it's very important also that what we say the EU level or Brussels people also connecting with those who are on the ground at the local level. And that's the whole added value of Eurodesk, that we have a European office, we have the national offices, but also we have the local multipliers who are actually in daily contact with the young people. And I think that's the strength of Eurodesk. So I'm very happy to be here. So basically, I will talk about what is happening at the European level and how Eurodesk is connected with all those policy developments. And as you can see, I mean, in recent years, there's been more and more focus on young people. I mean, in 2018, Discover EU, we had the European Solidarity Corps that appeared, and all this cumulated with the European Year of Youth last year. So a lot of things happening. And I will explain a bit some of those policy processes and how Eurodesk has a place there and what we are promoting. So basically for the European Year of Youth, I just want to say a few words about what has happened. There were like 120 stakeholders involved in co-creating the year and almost 13,000 events. And I would really like again to thank the Eurodesk network, because the European Commission told us like how grateful they were that the multipliers organized many of those activities on the ground. So there as well, it was again recognition of the work of Eurodesk and having this network of active multipliers that were ready to take action and to inform the young people when there are new opportunities for them. So we will soon close this year, and yeah, I mean, for us it was really a great year to put emphasis on youth information. And as part of the legacy, that's what we are working on now, is to make sure that this cross-sectoral cooperation and the fact that youth is a priority and mainstream in all policy areas, this is something we want to see happening. And youth participation has become a really hot topic. And I think it was a way to raise awareness among policymakers in the EU spheres, but also at national level, that young people have a say, they want to have a say, and we should give them a space for that. So among the things that came out, the citizens' dialogues, I think they will be, well, they are continued. I took part in one as experts recently, and what they said is that 1/3 of the citizens should be young people. So at least they have a place there guaranteed. And another thing that is currently being discussed in different spheres is the EU Youth Test that was promoted by the European Youth Forum, but also the European Parliament recently shared its position on the fact we should have such an EU Youth Test. And this is about testing policies to check whether they have a negative or positive impact on the young people. And this is again this idea of mainstreaming youth policies and the impact of policies for this target group at EU level. And other initiatives, the European Youth Portal, we are working with the Commission, they have a contractor, so we are trying to also to influence the process as much as we can. And the idea behind is to also have more consultation processes or interactive features so that young people can have a say on this portal. So basically for Eurodesk, we were one of the flagship projects of the European Year of Youth was the pool of young journalists. I know this is something that also existed in Poland a few years ago, and it was really successful. And the Commission decided to continue. So now we will have this pool of young journalists writing content on the European Youth Portal as a permanent element of the European Youth Portal. So we are super proud and happy to manage this pool. And they create, I mean, this current pool is very keen into creating podcasts. So I think that's something we will have more and more podcasts on the portal. And they also participate and promote international events, and I will give some examples where they've been. And it's becoming, like, little by little, a lot of institutions or even the UN, they want them to come and that they are panelists or they cover the events. I mean, they're really, appreciated. In terms of priorities, I mean, basically our priorities are very similar to the ones of the EU programs, digital, inclusion, participation, and being greener, but also the recognition of youth information, which was very much stressed by you. That is very important. So basically, on being greener, this was our strategy for Eurodesk for 2020, well, for our anniversary. It was before pandemic. 3 years ago, I think we adopted this for Eurodesk 2030. So basically, we did this work with Erica on the guidelines on the greening youth information services. And now we are really trying to implement as much as possible its principles, because of course, when we do materials, when we organize events, then the young people, we will completely lose their trust if they see that we are producing unsustainable products or throwing away stuff. And this is something we see like it would backlash. So we need, I mean, also by value, we need to be green, but it's also very important for the young people as well. So this is something we are really putting efforts in. And of course, there's always this contradiction between promoting mobility, which is also polluting in a way, and also promoting sustainability. And this is something we discussed with the European Platform on Learning Mobility, EPLM, at the last conference in March. And right now there's a consultation open, so that's also an invitation for you. If you have green practices or green initiatives, you're invited to share them before 30th of April. And you will get all the links in that. In terms of inclusion, I think it was said already well by the last speakers. There's still a lot of efforts to do, and this came out from our youth information survey that Wojciech mentioned. And when we see that young people are eager to go, most of them see it as a positive thing to go abroad, but then the fact that those that are less keen to go abroad, again, we will find those from rural environment, young people who are not in education or employment, and those in disadvantaged socio-economic conditions. And we see this in this survey. We went really deeper into these different groups and seeing how they relate to information, how they see it as a possibility for them to go abroad. And we really see the big differences between those young people, and especially some can accumulate different disadvantages, and then it's even harder to reach them. So again, we are collecting good practices. We aim to have guidelines as well and to reinforce the capacities of our network, because we all agree we need to be inclusive. We all agree we want to reach all young people, but how to do it concretely? How do we write the information on our brochures? What type of pictures we use? Like, it's very concrete guidelines we would like to provide to our network on that. On participation, again, cooperation with Erica. We worked on guidelines on youth participation in youth information that is available. It was one of our contributions to the year of youth. And basically, for us, our concrete implementation right now is the pool of young journalists, where we have the young people that we meet on a monthly basis. And we try now to also involve them in our own Eurodesk strategies. When we want to develop the new website, we consult them, or for the European Parliament project, we will engage them. So we try to have an ongoing consultation and dialogue with them, because they are the target groups, but they're also our experts, so for the tools we develop. And of course, on digital, this has been a forever priority of Eurodesk, to be on top of trends and to try to be where young people are, for example, on social media. So we just released our social media guidebook with our new branding, new colors and visual elements. So I invite you to check it if you're also doing digital marketing and so on. I think there are very good guidelines, and those guidelines are meant for the youth information workers. And they are meant to be very practical. And then the youth information, recognition of our sector. I think it's very important, because in many countries the youth information as a service, as a profession, is not recognized. It's only like a few countries that have this as a public service with trainings and so on. So this is something we really want to fight for. So, for instance, like Eurodesk, we are in talks with the Commission in terms of the midterm review of the EU strategy. And we always explain to them like what is happening in the countries, what's the added value of having local multipliers, talking to the young people in rural areas and so on, giving examples from the Eurodesk Awards, like the van that was shown. I mean, these are the examples we want to show them to explain the added value of it. So when they see me coming, usually, they know that I will come for asking for more funding for the national networks. And this is something we do also at European level to have this dialogue with the Commission. And also important processes, the EU Youth Work Agenda that was recently adopted that is recognizing youth work. And again, Eurodesk was in the steering group and we really pushed again for youth information to be recognized as one strong element of youth work. So again, very vocal on this aspect. And as a concrete contribution to the youth work agenda, we have the competence frameworks. So one of them we developed also with Erika, the Youth Infocomp, which is the competence framework for the the information worker. So that's something we want to have as a model or a framework that countries can use to develop their own framework, because if the profession is recognized, usually it comes also with training and continuing and initial training and so on. So it's like one building block, let's say, of having a strategy for youth information at national level. And the other one is the Eurodesk Mobility Advisor Competence Framework, which is more our framework as Eurodesk. What does it mean to be a Eurodesk Mobility Advisor? And it's to organize training activities and so on, or to analyze the training needs of the network. So there are very different purposes in the use of those frameworks. So for policy, I would say it's the Youth Infocomp, that's the one. And then in terms of activities, it's all about outreach, outreach, outreach. I mean, that's what we want, to reach young people. So, of course, I've mentioned the European Youth Portal. So for this one, we provide the thematic content, the news, the stories at the events, but you also have all the pages that are managed by the Commission, European Solidarity Corps, Discover EU, EU Youth Dialogue, and the policy pages. And of course, the programs, now that they integrated the programs on the youth portal, which is something we asked for, it also brings more young people on it, and then they can maybe check the content produced by the pool of young journalists or our own content and get inspiration to go abroad and discover. And that's 10 million visits in 2022. But we also have our own tools. I mean, that's the one that is, for me, the main one for the young people is the Opportunity Finder, because young people usually have difficulties to find the right information. You have multiple platforms, multiple age groups with the different programs, different rules, and so on. So with this tool, we aim to put everything into one place and try to make it the information clearer. And that's the European one, but of course the content can be translated and pooled by the national coordinators. So for Poland, you have, you have your own information portal, let's say, for the young people in Poland, with all the information in national language. Time to Move is our flagship campaign, coming every year in October. I guess you're kind of all familiar with this, but maybe just to highlight the new elements, which is the escape games. So we have now 2 escape games, and this was developed because of COVID, because we thought, okay, we cannot have games like card games and whatever what we were developing before. We were very sad about this. So we said, like, let's have games online. So we developed those virtual escape games that can be played, throughout the year. But yeah. So what's coming up in terms of participation, as I said, like European elections. So now we have a project from the European Parliament to carry out activities. And what we are super happy with this project is that we can support from the European level the local multipliers to run activities, which is kind of a first that we can do that. So we will have over 150 Euro classes on Euro participation to inform young people about What does it mean? Like, what are the elections? Why does it matter? What is the European Parliament deciding? How it affects their lives, and so on. So we'll have a hub for this type of information, and then communication going on that. It will be also a priority of time to move for next year. So you will receive, as soon as we have all the materials, also the info kits and so on, and they will be sent also to Valginet, a team for translation and adaptation also to the Polish context. And again, the peer-to-peer information and having young people also sharing their thoughts. So this will also be a very important element of the campaign. And this year is the European Year of Skills. So as you know, like the European Year of Youth was kind of successful. So they decided to prolong it to the 9th of May. So this campaign will start a bit later in spring. And that's all about upskilling and building on the European Year of Youth, but with this focus on skills and lifelong learning. So if you are interested in this topic, you are invited to use the hashtag of the campaign, the logo, and contact the national coordinators of the Year of Skills and to organize events and so on. So midterm review, this is really the hot topic at EU level right now because the Commission and they are evaluating the programs, they're evaluating the EU youth strategy. So the consultations are not open yet, but they will soon come. So if you have strong feelings about how the programs can be more youth-friendly or how the EU youth strategy could work better to reach out the young people, I don't know. Like any ideas are welcome, so there will be those open consultations coming. And yeah, so I mean, that's a chance as well to influence the way those policies are designed. And another hot topic is the learning mobility proposal for recommendation. So that's what the Commission also is working now. There are a lot of consultations going on. So as I mentioned, I was part of a citizens panel on this topic. And I was also interviewed by PPIME, which is a research consultancy. So they are consulting the stakeholders, but there's also a public consultation until 3rd of May. And the idea of the European Commission is that every young person or every citizen should have a chance to go abroad at least once. And they want to make this possible as part of the European education area. But also you will find again the inclusion and the green aspects that are very important. And in the identifying barriers to mobility, I mean, this is something, of course, we stressed, the lack of access to information as a first step before you can actually participate. If you don't have the information, it will be very difficult. So this is also a message we stressed. So if you're interested, I also invite you to take part in this consultation. So voilà, so that's a bit what's going on. So as you can see, there's a lot of things happening at EU level right now. So that's a moment for us to say what is youth information, what we contribute to all those policies, and to make the policy priorities a reality on the ground. So yeah, it's a call for action. Thank you.
Dziękujemy bardzo.
In Poland, very often people think that Eurodesk is just a platform for the young. This is partially true because Eurodesk does provide information to young persons, but from the perspective of the experts, Eurodesk is only a very small part of information for the young activities. Young information focuses on a broader perspective than Eurodesk only. I wanted to show you how it looks in other countries that are part of the policy for young information. Now, Imre Simon from the European Agency for Information and Youth Consultancy will take the floor and tell you more about it.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Well, we have all been sitting along for
quite a while. So those of you who feel like moving a little bit, I invite to stand up for a moment. And also those who are watching in the streaming, stand up in front of your computers and refresh our brains a little bit. In a minute, we have some mental coffee. We will start with very simple movements. If you feel uncomfortable, you don't have to do it, but it's very useful. Step one, very simple movements. Just turn your heads to right and left. Okay, I think you're doing excellent. Then the second step, do the same with our arms to the right and left. You are great. And the third step, do the same with our legs, yeah? To the one side and the other. Okay, and the step 4 is a combination of these. We will turn our head one side, the arms the other, and the legs to the same as the head. And then change, switch. Excellent. Thank you. Thanks, very well done. This activity is actually very good for waking up your brain, like both hemispheres of the brain with surprising and unusual movements. Thanks very much for being a partner in this crime. Thanks very much for having invited me to this conference. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm very grateful that you expanded the scope of this conference, and then we have also a place in it. I hope that after the 2 days you will say it was useful. My name is Imre Simon. I work for ERICA, the European Youth Information and Counseling Agency. And I will tell you about youth information and counseling in Europe and how it works. Before I start, I would also like to expand my birthday wishes to Eurodesk Poland. Happy birthday, happy 20th anniversary. So, what is information that we are talking about? It has changed a lot, especially since the appearance of the internet. Like before, information was a monodirectional thing. It was controlled, it was distributed, you could access it at very concrete channels, whereas nowadays we live in an information overload. Well, you work also in the field of youth information, so in a way, so it's not new to you. There are lots of information, loads of information out there, and the challenge for young people is not to get the information anymore, but to find their way and to sift through all that information overload which is out there. And young people of today are not only the first generation who live in the age of information overload instead of information scarcity, but also they are producers and multipliers of information. Yeah, so it's a whole new landscape, which might look a bit like this. Yeah, taking a drink from the fire hydrants. Because it's not only trustworthy and valuable and verified information out there, but also there's propaganda, there's misinformation, there are conspiracy theories. Many of them, of course, spread deliberately. So, yeah, it can be quite a challenge. This information is also nothing new. It has always been there, but thanks to the technology and the new channels of information I just mentioned, the spreading of it is much more efficient as before. To the level that in 2016, the year of the word of the year, according to the Oxford dictionaries, was post-truth. Yeah. So what can we do in these circumstances? We need support. Young people need support. They have to address this overload of information I mentioned. They have to be very critical, self-reflective. They have to have good media and information literacy skills. they need to balance between protection and also us as youth info workers need to balance between protection and empowerment. And what we are trying to be is interpreters between the piece of information and the consumer, the young person on the other side. And what we are very proud of, and which is a core of our work, is an individual approach and a personalized approach in information provision. So as such, in youth information work, we try to provide reliable, accurate information to the user through different sources and channels. And we want to give the like an overview of the opportunities for the young person. We always give the information, and our aim is to empower the young person to make their own informed decision with that information, instead of directing their life, directing their opinion, directing their decisions. Yeah, so reaching their, evaluating the information and reaching their own decisions. We also believe that access to information is a prerequisite to accessing rights and also services, because how can we use and live with our rights if we are not aware of them? Yeah, and with information literacy I already mentioned. So this activity, youth information and counseling services, are not only done by very motivated and dedicated organizations, but there's also a very serious policy framework behind. And I'm sure that you know the European Youth Goals, where Youth Goal number 4 is actually dedicated to information and constructive dialogue. And this is an outspoken aim, policy aim of the European Union to provide access to reliable information for young people. And also below I highlighted in bold the point that states youth-friendly information. The provision of youth-friendly information to young people. And it is not only the European Union, but also the Council of Europe, who has recommendations. The Council of Ministers have 2 recommendations which are concretely targeted or at youth information. I will tell them more about them more in my workshops tomorrow. But I wanted to highlight both that actually there are European level policy documents that are approved by also your country and then all the participating countries, and that can be used for advocacy purposes, and they provide very good and high quality guidance on how these services should look like. All right, but then what are these services? So what is youth information and counseling? Is it already something that you are doing? Is it something different? To find out more about it, I will show you a short video. So it will be just a 3-minute video presentation that will tell you about a bit more about youth information, and I will be back to continue the presentation afterwards. So when you are ready, then the video can start.
When I was a young boy, I was always wondering what direction to go, which truth to believe, and how to live life. Who answers my questions? Who knows? I made it my life purpose to find out. Soon I became the know-it-all in my class and amongst my friends. I called myself the youngest consultant for young people that history has ever seen. So this is my story, how I made it my life purpose to make order on the mess surrounding our lives, on all that information. Soon we came up with a name to label our profession, Youth Information Work, which now has become a shared and accepted approach in more than 30 European countries. It has been growing so much that we even created a European network, Erica. Yeah, that's how far we've got it. So now not only my friends can benefit, but all young people. Youth information work is there to provide reliable, accurate, and understandable information, to give access to different sources and channels of information, give an overview of the options and possibilities available on all relevant topics, help young people sift through the information overload they face today. The services that are offered in the youth information work are very diverse. Career guidance, studies and scholarships, jobs and training, general health matters, relationships and sexuality, social security benefits, rights of young people, consumer rights, legal advice, European opportunities for young people, youth activities and exchanges. That's tons of information, right? Information are all around us, offline, online, everywhere. It becomes so heavy to make the right decision. So that is why youth information work serves as a translation tool to all this information. And the youth information workers can be seen as interpreters. This is what I am dreaming of. But who knows? Youth information knows.
So this is youth information and counseling, and I lost my remote. And you can see some of these definitions on the screen. So this short video image was about generalist youth information work, which as shown covers all the topics that are of interest to young people. So in this among these coordinates, we can say that that I represent this network of generalist youth information centers, whereas Eurodesk can be seen as a specialized youth information provider on European mobility activities for young people. It's called Youth Information and Counseling. What's the difference between the two? Of course, the provision of information is a more direct method, a shorter, simpler method of providing the information without going into details, discussing its use or the concrete life situation of the young person. Whereas counseling is a closer relationship between the information provider or the counselor and the young person. And that can be, that is typically a longer process with several meetings accompanying the young person a bit and discussing the use of the information and the way of solving that life situation that the young person is in. How are these youth information and counseling structures organized in Europe? There are, as you see, there is a variety of structures, and I will go through them one by one because that can be interesting, actually. In the first place, we see individual youth information centers. So this is how it begins. Usually there's a center, there is someone who's motivated, someone who wants to do this, and they establish a center, then there might be someone else as well. And then if there are several centers, we can have, there is typically, luckily, cooperation among these centers, and it can take different shapes. It can be a non-formal network, which means that it's not a legally registered organization, but it's still cooperation among these centers. The next step is even better if this is a registered association of these youth information centers. You can see examples of each on the slide. And there is also a very common situation, actually, when the government believes that they have a role to play here. And then there can be then a governmental youth agency, which is usually the agency that or institute that encompasses all the activities related to youth work, so not only youth information but the whole spectrum of youth work. Yeah, it has a broader scope. There can be national youth information centers, which is a very similar concept, but it is only youth information, so specifically youth information, which means that youth information has its own organization in the country, and they can cooperate, the centers can cooperate under that umbrella. There are also national coordinating structures, where this is like a service provider scheme, when this coordinating structure is something like a resource center or a knowledge center for youth information and counseling, who provide services for the centers and the networks or the regional networks of centers probably. And in some countries the coordination of youth information and counseling is entrusted at national youth umbrella organizations like national youth councils typically, or it also happens that the government doesn't establish an institute, but they mandate an NGO to do that job for them. I'm very bad with this remote. I keep putting it away. So there are differences, of course, among these structures, like what's the level of centralization? Of course, the individual centers are completely independent, whereas if it's, for example, a national youth institute, then there are directions, topics, but also information products and funding coming from a centralized level. The level of cooperation with the ministries responsible for youth, whether they define the scope of activities of these centers. In the case of like national youth information centers, there is also an effect on the visual appearance, the branding of these centers, and a very crucial difference is whether this national coordination provides information products or not, and it focuses on the operational capacities. Yeah, and the sources of funding, I think it's needless to detail. But all these are just differences on the organization level. Yeah, so there might be very different systems in different countries, but in the end, for the young person, it should not be visible. It is not visible. Yeah, the outcome is always and should always be that they get that compass, they get that help, that information that is needed for them to make those decisions. Yeah, and a few words about my organization as well. Erika, as Wawrzak said, we celebrated our 37th anniversary yesterday. Maybe some of you joined our webinar or some other events that we organized under this umbrella. So indeed, the 17th of April was the European Youth Information Day, and this is how Erika started in 1986. So as you can see very well, the network of youth information centers was not that big at that time. That was the Erika network, including the Secretary General. So it's a couple of countries who were very enthusiastic, and they had this new thing, not so new, but on the organized level, new thing of youth information centers who gathered, and they developed this network. Nowadays we have 42 members in 26 European countries. It is also important to mention that we operate in Council of Europe member states, so some of our members are EU members and some of our members are not EU members, so we think along geographical Europe. Yeah, you can I say that you can read our vision and mission? I'm used to not reading out text-heavy slides, but since my slides are in English, and I apologize for that, I say that yes, so our vision is that young people have access to the information they need in a way they need it, which promotes then their autonomy and decision-making capacities. And the aim of our network, the European network, and like my organization particularly is to inspire, support and develop youth information and counseling. And I will speed up a little bit from here so that to leave time for Eva as well. You can see some numbers that refer to the last year before the pandemic. So of course there were much less face-to-face visits during the pandemic. But otherwise, this is how the network looked like since 2019, where these numbers date back to. We bypassed 4,000 youth information centers by having some new members, particularly in countries where they have a lot of these youth information centers, like Spain is the biggest network in Europe, and France and Italy are coming next as well. And yeah, you can see also the numbers for face-to-face and online visits within that year. Youth information and counseling is also part of the national or regional youth strategies in most of the countries. As you see that over 90% of our members have this enshrined in their national youth strategy, so that is also a very good and important starting point for this advocacy work. You see a publication below, which I will also use at my workshop tomorrow. It can be downloaded from our website, and it includes a lot of data of our whole European network and all the member countries and organizations, so it's a very good resource for examples how youth information is organized in different countries. And okay, we talked a lot, but then how about young people? Yeah, I suppose you are all interested on young people's opinions. But I will just say the conclusions of these slides. Around half of them, or more than half of them, are actually unsecure about information consumption and finding the right information and judging whether that information is accurate or not. Their preferred source of information, you can see that it's the highest proportion is for face-to-face. Wawrzak also mentioned this earlier. Of course, it refers to the situation when they are concretely looking for a piece of information to solve a certain issue. It's not that they would not use the internet more than they go to youth information centers, but this is a very particular situation when they are looking for information. The areas of info needs, these are the areas that you have seen in the video as well, so I will skip it. And yeah, this is an interesting one about reliable sources of information. It's interesting to see that depending on the topic, it's different how young people look for information. So for example, if you go like sexuality and intimate relationships, you see that the highest proportion is online. Also health and well-being and the housing, then the highest proportion is online. So if it's a too sensitive thing to ask in person, or it's just simply the best way to look for the info is online, then they do it online. Yeah, and there are also other ways, but for example, you see that in many cases the youth information centers come on top of the preferred channel of receiving information. Yeah, I mentioned already that there is no participation without information. If you do not know about our rights, we cannot use them. And the publications I mentioned as well, you can see the link on the slide where you can download a lot of publications, and I will show you some of them tomorrow at my workshop as well. So thank you very much for your attention. I will stay for the next 2 days, or today and tomorrow, and we can discuss more, and we will discuss more also in the workshops about this topic, but that was kind of in my introduction to this subject. Thanks very much for your attention.
Dziękuję bardzo.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. This conference is a part of our annual meeting, Eurodesk Poland annual meeting. So among you there are people who are not going to be with you at workshops, but Audrey and Imre will stay with us for yet another day. We are also going to have workshops after the coffee break. So if you wish to extend your knowledge on youth information, you'll have an opportunity to do so. The final presentation today, a scientific perspective. Dr. Ewa Krzaklewska from the Jagiellonian University. She arrived to join us. Ewa Krzaklewska deals with youth topics. She evaluates, analyzes youth issues. She's a top expert on youth in Poland. And she also deals with the topics of youth information, as far as I know. And she's also focusing on those young people who are close to adultship. That's where information plays the major role in the life of a young person. Doctor, the floor is yours. Thank you very much. I've been thinking since Imre had started with some exercise. I also have an exercise for you. Those of you who want to stretch out, please stand out. A very simple exercise. I've read that you need to stretch the line of your body. So touch the ear from the other side. So right hand, left ear, left hand, right ear. And add a nose, add your nose to it. Let me demonstrate how we're going to do it. A couple of times. Do it a couple of times. And try to do it faster. Okay. I hope that will help us survive until the coffee break.
Jest to wielka przyjemność.
It is a great pleasure to me to be able to be here with you today and to talk to the persons who truly work with the young people on a daily basis. Congratulations to all of you. I am really impressed by all of your presentations, by all the figures and numbers that you presented, because this is the work that you did. I'd like to introduce myself. I have already been introduced, but I would also like to tell you that I'm somehow connected to youth information, and because it is the 20th anniversary, I think I should tell you a story about one of my memories. So, one event that was very important to me, it was the 20th anniversary of Erasmus program. It was 2007. Then I worked in Erasmus Student Network in Brussels, and we informed the people about mobility and Erasmus program. And then we took a van. I will show you that in a moment. Which device is it? A bus, a van, and we traveled around Europe for 3 months, around different cities, and we gave out CD-ROMs. So it also shows you how the times have changed. So we had to videotape our adventures. Then we sent that tape to Brussels so that they could publish it somewhere. So the context of youth information has changed, the tools have changed, but then being young volunteers, we believed that you had to go to the cities in person, and we thought we have to be there in those cities and stand somewhere on certain squares and inform people. This is what we did. Well, for sure, we haven't reached out to as many people as we could today online, but it also shows you our engagement. You can see it on the slides. My reflection is that providing information back then was based on a face-to-face meeting, a physical contact, but it has also been highlighted today as a very important way of communicating with young people. And this program based on people who already used mobility opportunities, and on the people who prepared the project for young people. I think that this is also relevant today. So these face-to-face meetings. But while I was preparing myself to this presentation, I also thought that the times were different. The year was 2007. It was 1 year before the financial crisis in Europe. It was a time when the EU Commission worked on a very important document, this green paper concerning the learning mobility. And at that time, everybody believed in that mobility. We believed that it was a crucial tool. It was a top priority for the European policy. And we really believed in that. We were very enthusiastic about that. So when we shared the information about this project with the young people, we were so enthusiastic, and we didn't think back then that at some point the borders could be closed because of the pandemic, or that the war could outbreak here in Europe, in Ukraine. Well, I also wanted to tell you a few words about the future of youth information, about the challenges, because of course the youth information has a happy face, happy mask of opportunities and chances, but there is also the other side of the coin. I mean, supporting young people with dealing with difficult situations is challenging, and we have to fill in the gaps that are there in public institutions. Navigating is a very fashionable term today. It was also already said by one of the prelegents today. So people right now have to navigate through the market. And there are a lot of crises right now happening simultaneously: political, health crisis, economic crisis. We get the impression that we can lose control of ourselves while following our path, despite the fact that still we have certain opportunities. In 2007, we also had no idea, we didn't think about the footprint of our trip. And right now, young people really focused on how their activities influence the climate, because they are thinking about their future in this context, in the context of a climate disaster and climate crisis and climate change. So actually I should start the story with the information that I perceive youth information in a broader context. It's part of the youth policy, actually. So on the one hand, youth policy is viewed by me as something crucial, but on the other hand, is also should be perceived in a broader context of youth policy that would help then address the crisis appropriately. And I think we should now take a moment to reflect on how the situation looks in Poland, because we are now celebrating an anniversary of Eurodesk in Poland. So for sure, the youth policy in a lot of countries is a priority. And in a lot of youth policies, there is also place for youth information. So how should we understand youth policy? So on the one hand, we could perceive it from the perspective of a strategic vision. What is the place of the young people in society? What space should be allocated to them, how they should function in society? And on the other hand, this is also a base of a series of activities that engage them in the society, that helps them become active citizens. And I think that the role of the youth should comprise both of these aspects. So on the one hand, young people should be perceived more broadly as an element of youth policy in a given country, but also as a certain feasible, concrete actions and forms of support that young people can access. Well, actually, in Poland, we unfortunately do not have national frameworks of youth policy, and we also do not have the national system of providing information to young people. But it does not mean that nothing happens here. Locally, there are a lot of events, a lot of NGOs engage in initiating certain activities for young people, and they actually follow that youth policy that I referred to. They fill in the gaps that are there, the gaps that should be filled in by public institutions, but they are not. When it comes to my review of local policies and regional policies, actually I looked into the Poznań, Kraków, Warsaw, in Świętokrzyskie province. These were the policies that I looked into. And I must say that all those documents stress the role of youth policy and youth information. This is a very important piece of information to us, because these policies, based on broad studies, broad research, made locally and affected locally and regionally, but still it is important for the broader support to young people. It's good to know that something is happening, and my analysis of those documents indicates the issues that have already been mentioned today. So the youth needs the information for different sources, but reliable sources. Mental health, labor market, preventing violence. In those contexts, youth information and the need for the youth to be able to access such information was mentioned. Also, the flow of information was indicated in this study. It also shows that the example of Eurodesk shows us how important network among professionals is. Professionals that can support each other in supporting young people. The analysis shows that this is the kind of support that is needed. The network is needed. Cooperation between the people who support young people is needed. Because while I was reading the documents, I was analyzing, I noticed that there is not enough knowledge for creating youth policies in the local context. Also in those documents there were important points touched upon. And I will tell you about them before I move on to the second part of my presentation, which is the challenges. So the important contexts are, for example, confidence. Confidence is something different from reliability, because reliability is the reliability of sources, for example, and the confidence is the confidence that we put in people, trust that we have to people. And for sure you have also noticed that providing information is not just about handing in a leaflet, but it's about communicating with a person, with gaining their trust and inspiring the young people, telling them that it is worth doing something. Those documents also touched upon inclusion, openness, and diversity of young people that need their support. They spoke different languages even. They had different political views and different views on the global events. And very often the importance of internet sources were mentioned in those documents, but I think that what was missing was informing how the internet sources should be used. Well, then, 2020 happened. It was a breakthrough year. We noticed that the young people do not have that easy in their lives. Of course, it also verified our approach to different projects, to the projects concerning our work, our health, the European Union, etc. But for sure, this was, so to say, even a generation joint experience for the young people. And a lot of studies showed that the lack of access to schools resulted in a situation where young people did not have any reliable source of information at hand, actually. And it also showed us, the year 2020 showed us that relations are very important. So we had to rethink the mobility issue. Whether the mobility issue is not excessive, we then changed our approach to mobility, and we thought that quality of mobility was more important than the quantity. And also a lot of people came back to their homes. They didn't have the chance to go to studies abroad, so it also made us rethink mobility in this context. We also thought about our well-being, about the fact that we can feel down during the pandemic, and social inequalities were also worsened. Now, moving on to the young generation in Poland. Of course, the pandemic had a huge impact on them, but this generation is also very active. They work, they earn their money, they are not scared that they will not get any job. They are aware. We have a phenomenon of mental health crisis, but on the other hand, this generation is more willing to discuss mental health. And we can see also the rise in the interest in political issues. And also their view on the world has changed, but they also positively assess the integration of Poland with the European Union. And they are also aware of the climate change. So the climate change, the crisis of health, and the war of Ukraine, these are the topics that are most important for the young people. Now, speaking of challenges, these three challenges that I listed, these are the challenges that I chose to present you today. These are the things that are perceived as a key for youth policies and for our actions as well. When it comes to the opinion of the Polish youth, then you can see here on the slide that 70% of people think that the climate change is a threat, or is the most important threat in the world. But what is interesting, 25% of young people do not have any opinion on the climate change. So it shows us also that for controversial topics, it is not that easy for young people to assess who is right and who is wrong. But for sure, it is a key topic for the young people. Similar data was retrieved in a Flash Eurobarometer study. 40% of young people think, according to this study, that climate change and environment protection are key issues nowadays. Now, the mental health crisis. I think it is important to rethink how we provide information to young people, because on the one hand, we can divide this information into sectors. For example, we divide information into information concerning labor market, concerning mental health, etc., etc. But on the other hand, the situation of young people nowadays is very complex, and we cannot separate all the issues. They are interconnected. In the pandemic, students students from abroad who during the pandemic suffered from the lack of the possibility to travel. And this crisis actually were interconnected. For example, the crisis connected with lack of mobility was connected with crisis with family relations, etc., etc. So these crises are interconnected. They cannot be separated. And when you spoke about the green youth information, it also gives us the broader perspective. So this mobility and on the other hand, mobility is important, but on the other hand, we want to be green, we want to decrease our footprint, so what decisions should we take? So we should think about it, what tools we can give the youth to just discuss these issues. And the third challenge, a new situation in Poland. So our society has become more diversified. Persons coming from other countries suddenly coexist in our territory. In our schools, in our different organizations, we meet a lot of people who fled the war in Ukraine. These people joined our organizations. They have become part of our everyday life in Poland and our functioning. And on the one hand, we can think that this is natural, it's something obvious, but on the other hand, it is a key issue because those people speak different language, they have different culture, so we have to now think about it, how to build multicultural projects because this is a huge social change. In local strategies, it was also indicated that schools, so the structures that are already there, are key in reaching out to young people. But in the context of young refugees, it may be difficult because a lot of them are out of the system in Poland. They have not been included, they did not join our system of education. Now, to sum up. I think that my analysis indicates that we need to build broader structures for reaching out to young people with information, and we have to combine different sectors in this work because these crises appear simultaneously and they are interconnected, and the young people that come to us, they are aware of different contexts, of different problems, and they need very often very specialized information. I think that this structure is key so that this network of information providers is recognized. Well, I am, apparently an expert that knows the most about the Polish youth, but when I read those documents that I analyzed, I thought, wow, I still do not know a lot about our young people. I think that Eurodesk network should be the first contact point for the young people who can then be connected to other specialists who can help them. And I'm really glad that Eurodesk is concentrated on the networking because that is how we can share our experience and knowledge. You are the experts and your knowledge is so necessary, so much needed in local societies, local communities and town halls, so that people working there know how to reach out to young people, how to address young people, because very often people working there have the knowledge but they don't know how to communicate with young people. And I think that these are the challenges that youth information faces. And I think that we should maybe give up the divided approach, the separating different crises, but we should start approaching it more holistically. Thank you very much.
Bardzo dziękuję. Pani doktor.
Thank you very much, Madam Doctor. A very interesting speech indeed. And that's slowly but surely we're arriving at the end of the first session of this conference. A big body of knowledge, big body of information. In half an hour's time, we'll start to talk about this more operating level and more practical level. I haven't, let me say goodbye to all those participants of our conference who have joined us online. I haven't welcomed you, but at least I say goodbye. The workshops are not going to be broadcast, but I do hope that during the workshop, people who are going to be with us will strongly share their views and opinions. Information on the regional youth policy, that's the concerto room, floor 1, how to effectively reach out to young people. You subscribe to those workshops, but you can always change your mind. So how to effectively reach out to young people, and it's going to be Procura room. You'll find that information on the screens in front of the room, and how to create places which are young people friendly. This workshop is going to take place in here, in this plenary room. The conference has taken a bit longer. I mean, this session has taken a bit longer, but not that much. So thank you very much for your being with us. And come back at 20 to 1 to resume with the workshop part. Thank you.